Good morning, readers. This is Ninian Wilson, one of the digital reporters at The National. I am joined by Abby Garton-Crosby, one of our political reporters. And we're here, as we usually are, to talk about the day's news. We should probably start off by referencing that our website is currently down right now. We are suffering technical issues, something to do with servers. Not that Abby or I would have much understanding of that.
It's a company-wide issue. It's not just the National. So a lot of news quest sites are down. Don't know when they're going to be back up, but it is an opportunity to live like in the 90s, perhaps, and buy a newspaper today, and go and enjoy it in the sunshine and read the news that we've got for you. So there is that option. The National's still out there. We've still got lots of good stories in there. Our front page today, we're leading on a report from the UK government on the UK government's COVID response, and also the fact that we reached like record temperatures in Scotland yesterday. So it was 34.8 degrees in Charterhall in the Borders, which is just insane to the fact that we've reached those temperatures and that it's 18 degrees and absolutely glorious outside at 9 o'clock this morning in Glasgow. It's so weird. So yeah, we've got all that stuff. We've been focusing really on the climate. We're not one of those newspapers who's going to have, everybody get on the beach, boil yourself. We have the actual story for you. As though I'm sure some of you have seen those front pages. I actually saw this morning that like the Daily Mail and the Express the day before were like, everybody, they're all snowflakes, go to the beach, and then today they're like, the world is burning. So even they're starting to catch on a little bit. So we're having a little bit of issue with our website, but we'll still be working behind the scenes to, make sure that we're getting you lots of news for later on whenever we're back, and for tomorrow's paper. So, yeah, sorry about that. I just started talking away there, Ninian.
No, quite right. I mean, it has obviously been the biggest story the last couple of days. You'd think that maybe politicians would be speaking about it a little bit more, particularly in the leadership debates, but it's been conspicuously absent from the mouths of UK government and Tory leadership hopefuls. But there you go.
There was actually a story I did yesterday, just a coincidence with that, not a coincidence, but I found out that through BIS, Business, Energy, Industry, BIS. Anyway, Kwasi Kwarteng, so he's the Business and Energy Secretary. The transparency data for that department came out yesterday, and he was on a 2-day trip to Saudi Arabia and was flown around internally in Saudi Arabia by Aramco, who are the state-owned oil giant that are mostly state-owned by the Saudi royal family. And he was basically treated to like an overnight stay in their compound that they have for workers. And he was flown out to another giant oil field, but that wasn't on the transparency data. So, we're talking about the climate crisis, and our business and energy secretaries flying to Saudi Arabia, who have a terrible human rights record, to try and get more oil, to move away from Russian oil, moving from one dictatorship to another. So these things are all kind of like linked in to each other as well. The UK government do not seem to actually be moving away from oil and gas. In fact, they seem to be taking handouts from governments who are heavily invested in it. So, I'm pretty sure that's in the paper today if anybody wants to read that. It was very interesting. They also gifted him a little £300 tablet, which must be nice to get gifts like that.
Yeah, it's almost like it's like a Christmas stocking of gifts just at the end, like a little party bag of like, hey, buy our oil, and a little wine and dine tour of Saudi Arabia. I mean, absolutely incredible, but a really good story. I really enjoyed reading that actually. But while we're on Tory, should we touch on the next round of the leadership context?
Yes, so today we're going to be over with these rounds of voting among Tory MPs, and it's going to move on to the membership, which we still would have a vote on, but whatever. So 4 o'clock today we'll find out who the 2 final leadership contenders are. So the 3 left standing are Rishi Sunak, former Chancellor, Liz Truss, the current Foreign Secretary, and Penny Mordaunt. Now, I don't know, I should say this on the live stream, but there has been a thing going around on Twitter where apparently, now allegedly, and I'm going to talk loads of allegedly and claims in here because I could not stand this up before it came in, that Penny Mordaunt had tweeted that if they vote for Sunak and Truss, then it'll murder the Tory party.
Do you know what? I did actually see that. So it was. I think it was.
It was like a quick up and delete.
It was an up
However,
and delete. I think she'd retweeted an article from quote tweeted an article from Alison Pearson at the Telegraph, which yeah.
well done, Sophie. That was quick.
Well, yeah, that's our social media editor just coming in right at the right time. So the article from Alison Pearson, I think that was roughly the headline. I think what will have happened is that Mordaunt will have sort of basically quoted the headline, not realizing that she was what she was actually saying. Because actually, something, if there's, like Alison Pearson is quite is known for quite like hard lines of language at times. But so I think you just need to be careful what you. I mean, it's just a classic example of being careful what you say, just having a bit of self-awareness and not referencing murder in a contest with what are technically your colleagues.
Particularly in light when two MPs have actually been murdered, like in the past couple of years. So there is that. It's probably not the best wording for it. I think at Joe Cox. But yeah, so obviously there's that going on. So we'll find out 4 o'clock today. That's right, isn't it? Who's going to be the?
Yeah, it looks like Sunak's like safe, like just about. I mean,
you know what the Tories are like. They change their mind at the last minute. They're completely unpredictable. You never know. You actually never know. I would not put any money on it.
That's fair enough. But I think with Truss and Mordaunt, it really is this kind of like clear cut, like dividing line between like what they say is a fresh start in Penny Mordaunt because she's not been tainted by the Boris Johnson brush.
Yeah.
But and then there's Truss, who's basic, like carrying on that Johnson legacy through his supporters and policies, and the fact that she's actually still as a foreign secretary in his government as well. So yeah, I think really it's up to the Tory membership what they want. Do they want more of the same, or well, actually, I mean, either way, Scotland loses. But is it more Boris Johnson type, or is it kind of be like a rebranding of their party in some kind of creative design exercise? Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, I think really that, I mean, if you look at those debates, the spectre of Boris Johnson is looming heavily over this entire contest. The Tories aren't going to get a new leader and then everything's going to be forgotten, although I think they might actually think that. That is not how it's going to work, especially if it is Liz Truss or Rishi Sunak, because that's essentially a continuity candidate who's just running on from Boris Johnson's government. And I mean, even Penny Mordaunt, she was defending Boris on the Channel 4 debate when everybody asked if he was honest, and she actually seemed a bit annoyed at the end and said, well, he did do this when he said he would. So it's not as if none of them aren't big Boris fans and they're like, we need to completely change. They're all his pal, like they're all part of the same cabal. Like
Sunak might not be, but
yeah. So yeah, it's one of those things. It'll be interesting to see, because obviously, if our website was up right now, we would be talking about Rishi Sunak's latest claims over the union, in which we can tell you now he's basically saying that he would do anything to save the union. Now, there was a quote in there where he said, focusing on the union and not people's priorities and not on constitutional navel gazing. I've heard that phrase before. Is that a Ruth Davidson phrase? Like, it seems like a Ruth Davidson phrase, or like somebody like that has definitely said constitutional navel gazing, because that's just like stuck in my head.
Yeah, I mean, it is. I mean, it's like these lines have been like repeated. Like Andrew Bowie wrote something in the Times forum, I think it was last week, about, and they were boasting really about how they would circumvent quote unquote Holyrood. Using levelling up funds to pass money directly onto local councils, and now it's just sort of like refreshing this, like doubling down on it, saying I'll do anything and everything to save the union, and saying that he's going to be the top line from the Times kind of sounds was that he would be the most interventionist prime minister in Scotland since devolution. So who he thinks he's winning out that. I mean, that's not that when I hear things like that, I think to myself, he's not speaking to the people of Scotland. He's actually probably trying to appeal to base voters south of the border. That's not for us. That's not for.
Actually, the Scottish Tories that live here as well, because they'll probably love that. Like they probably quite happy to support that. Although I don't speak on behalf of all Scottish Tories, so that is just but what I was going to say is obviously as well, we've got Boris Johnson's last PMQs today, so. Yeah. It's his last time at the dispatch box. It's the last time we're going to have to hear him fumbling and mumbling with his messy hair and not making any sense and claiming that. Well, what was it last week? He claimed that during his speech when the no confidence vote the other day, he claimed that his government had kept every single promise that they'd ever made.
Amazing.
Not true.
That is absolutely amazing. I mean, to be honest, I'm actually surprised he made it. I mean, there was quite a lot of suggestions that he was gonna patch it, that he was gonna ditch it. He's not been going to high profile really important Cobra meetings of the climate. And
he's been farting about in jets and things like that.
Yeah, the jets.
It's obviously like making sure he gets like all of his bucket list things ticked off before he gets chucked at the office. Do you know what I mean? Like he's like, right, I want to fly a jet. Let's just hope there's no like bombing of anyone or anything on that list, or like something that might spark an international incident. But you never know, Boris Johnson. To be honest, it's crazy that he's still even allowed to be the caretaker prime minister. To be honest, it's insane. But yeah, as we said, we had a lot of coverage on that where it was a confidence motion in the government because they didn't agree with Labour's no confidence motion. And then at the start of the confidence vote, Boris Johnson tried to blame Labour for dragging him to the House of Commons when it was his own government's motion.
I mean, it is just an incredible lack of detail. I mean, it's
shambolic.
At this point, I mean, he's given up the ghost. I mean, it's like he's not even trying to look like he's sort of still even vaguely interested in the office at all.
Yeah.
It is quite incredible. Just, I think we'll probably need to wrap up fairly soon, but just we should probably mention, so we can't really not mention it, that ScotRail's timetable is full-time May timetable is being resumed today. So we've got so as of today, there will be an additional 700 services that were cut back in May because the reduced timetable because the train drivers and part of the union, the ASLEF union, refused to work on rest days and overtime, and now they've accepted their 5% pay rise, and now we'll be back to a full service, notwithstanding heat warnings, because there's quite a lot of issues with how the temperatures have affected the rail network. I think there's been some fires down close to Peterborough which have affected cross-border rail services. So we'll have something on that as soon as our website's back up. We'll hopefully have something back up on that and have all the details. But yeah, I mean, good news for commuters, and good news that well, in my opinion, that the workers' rights are being respected, so that's cool.
I mean, it's I'd actually think I think it's our website. I reported earlier in the week that a lot of trains were actually like there was speed limits because of the heat. So this is like affecting every. It's like we finally got our trains back, and then there's another issue in the bridge, which is the climate. Typical Scotland, to be fair. But yeah, I think that's all from us today. We're going to go and work away behind the scenes and pray our website comes back up as soon as possible. So thanks very much, guys.
Cheers, guys. Thanks so much. Bye.